Good afternoon and welcome to the FX Daily Roundup. And with Veterans Day, it's relatively quiet, to say the very least. Euro is just, you can see here right here on the 2-hour chart, we are exceptionally quiet. We did run into some minor resistance here at the 1140. Looking actually at the bias chart, that resistance that we had is higher. Bear with me. Okay. Okay. Our resistance for today, bias chart resistance for today for the euro was 1047, but we did run into some minor resistance here at the 1040. So not bad. I mean, we made it up to what, 1043, and the bias chart resistance from this morning was for 1047. And we've also seen the cable kind of make a run up here towards this 29 now. The bias chart resistance was 2846, but bias chart resistance from last week we had at 2916, 2926. So we did make another run up here to 29, kind of faded back. The cash dollar index, and we'll take a look at that. But like I said, it's very, very quiet today. We have seen gold move close to some very key support at the 38% back, and also some level support I posted into the room. But you can see here our bias chart resistance that we had on the dollar index from last week for a secondary level was 98.41. But in order for this thing, and we did negate the downside picture with that close above 98.79, you can see right here. But it doesn't turn bullish until we get a daily close above 98.65. Key thing is, if we do get a daily close above 98.65, it does turn. It's back. The bull case is back in, back in mode and back in the groove and back on the tracks. But like I said from last week, actually from when we mentioned this from 2 weeks back, which was, and it failed at that level, the 97.89, which was. If we get a move back up, it's still bearish unless we close above it. And we turned around, we rotated lower, and we went and pushed this thing lower the prior week, and then or the week after, I should say. And then we spent this last week moving back above it and getting above it. And we said, hey, look, if it does move above it, it's going to negate the downside, but it's in a lot better technical situation that was a week prior, where it was just one test and ultimately it did go and fail. Now it had done some homework, so you got to give it its due. But that being said, it would have to close above 98.65 on a daily closing basis in order to reignite the bull. We had some minor intraday support, resistance, I should say, at 98.41-ish. I think they got a little bit above that, not much. Well, I guess they did stop at 98.41. But our bias chart resistance was for 98.65, which would, if they got above that on a closing basis, would move this market definitely higher. Looking at the peso, same old song, same old dance, continues to go in and fail. This morning, when we were doing the bias chart resistance, we were right there at 1916, and I said, hey, that's our bias chart resistance, which is, I think it's right just a hair below 1916, right there. But I put the bias chart resistance is going to be 1916.5, and that's actually where they ran out of gas. I guess they made it up just a little bit higher, and they ran out of gas, and they rotated lower. And our support, we had, actually put it for 1898, but the door's open for a move down to 1892. But we actually put it at 1898. We've all been down here to around 1908-ish, but market is still having a tough time. We can go in and take a look at the dollar yen. And things are a little bit different here. You can see here I'm now doing the webinar now on the MacBook Pro. I'm not doing it on the main computer. We had those, twice we had issues with, for whatever reason, the computer. It's a brand new computer from, what is it called, Trading Computers or whatever the name of that company is. But twice I've already had it for I think about 3 months or so, something like that. Maybe a little bit longer, maybe 4 months. But anyway, it's been great. Although the battery went out and the mouse and the system locked up, but replace the batteries and all that's good. But this last week, twice I had some audio issues. I think y'all were here. I think it was on Thursday, and also during the European crossover webinar when I would hook in my send me this mic. I forget the blue snow or something like that. Anyway, it's a real good mic. But anyway, that being said, we had audio issues. I mean, it just didn't want to recognize it, and I don't keep it plugged in so the whole time. And so what I did was I did a reboot and had it plugged in the whole time. And then when it came time to do the webinar, it still gave me the same thing. But enough of that. I'm just going to move to the MacBook and just not to have to deal with. In some ways, it makes things a lot easier. In some ways, a little bit difficult in other ways. But that being said, getting back to the dollar yen, you can see here we were right here at this pivot, and we still closed below the pivot. You see what I'm saying? That huge 927. And we mentioned this, and I think Blake even mentioned that I talked about this market should be higher, and it should be higher. But I'm looking at it from a, remember the song from the 90s? Was it Things That Make You Go, And that's been my take, is not that it has to get above it, although I think it would push the stops, is that my concern is, wow, it should be up in here about the 111, 1150. The fact that it's not tells you that this market, we talked about it, simply doesn't want to go higher. We've talked about how, you look at the SPOOs, and look at the SPOOs way up here in the stratosphere. I mean, they may be a little bit down right now, but in the overall bigger picture, go back to here, you don't need me to tell you that these equities have been on absolute fire, okay? So what the heck is going on with the dollar yen still being weak? And so my point is, even if they do sign finally get around to signing that, trade deal of cutting off the tariffs, whatever, bunch of malarkey to me. But anyway, that I think that it could just be they goose the stops, and then we just sit there for about a day, maybe only a couple of days, and then we start heading back down here like nobody's business. Now, the dollar yen, actually we saw the yen strengthen a little bit during the European session, I guess probably from the latter part of the Asian into the European session this morning, and that was because of due to an escalation in violence in Hong Kong. So that actually is what pushed the dollar yen lower. Now, it's not significantly lower, but we did get below 109 at the time. I mean, we were doing a little bit high. We kept continuing to weaken. I think when we were doing the European crossover webinar, we were actually, I think, at 898, if I believe that's correct. But anyway, our bias chart support was 878. If we do trigger the stops on the upside, it's 964. But like I said, this thing should be a whole heck of a lot higher when you take everything into consideration, and it simply wants no part of that. So, it's not buying this whole, trade malarkey stuff. So, my point is it should be higher, but the point is not that it's going to go higher, although I think it can hit some stops. My point is, one way to look at it is you may just sit back and say, let the trade deal come off. Let's see how far they push. And maybe I'll look to go on and look for some setups to trade this thing back to the downside. And so we're hanging around this 927. If they sign that deal, okay, they're going to goose some stops, potentially right here. We're going to make it up here to 1050-ish. But like I said, it could be just a, turn around like one of those, what do you call it? The North Korean rocket, the video shoots up and then, just comes right back. Actually, it didn't even go very far when it shot up. But the point is that we could just see a quick pop, and then all of a sudden the thing may end up finishing lower, like a gravestone doji or something like that. I don't think it'd be like a shooting star, although it could be. But this is one pair you really want to keep your eyes on and use it as a leading indicator for where we go after they sign the trade accord, because this market is not believing this at all whatsoever. It's pressing up against the pivot, but like I said, if they take off, no one's going to get in the way. We take off, but let's see what this thing does at some of these higher prices. Really, the first real test is going to be 10 and above 10. And like I said, pick your levels. And like I said, if we were to finish a day or a couple of days later on a very weak note, setting up some type of a setup, whether it be a shooting star or a gravestone doji or something like that, it would certainly bode, for some concerns, negative concerns for other markets that we'd be looking at. So I just want to go on in and share that and share what my take is. It should be higher, but it doesn't mean that I believe it's supposed to go higher. I'm saying it should be higher with the thought that, once again, the old 90s songs, things that make you go, as in, you know what, this thing doesn't like, this thing does not want to rally, and if we do rally and hit those stops, it's probably going to be a good fade. And if it does eventually fade, post the signing, could spell concerns for other markets like equities and other cross pairs, things like that. So just want to keep that in mind. That's about the most important thing I have to go on and share. We did get a nice run up here in the dollar CAD. We're going to go to that real quick, and we'll wrap up with that. So we did come into this 32.36. We got past the 50%. This is a level. Now, I didn't even mark it off on Friday, but Amanda in the chat room, she'd been playing this dollar CAD long, and I think she exited, all of her stuff right around that level on Friday. But we have some resistance beyond that, which we even marked it on Friday, which is 32.57. But the next real resistance is going to be 32.69. Now, really, the door is open for us to move to up to this 33.36 and this level. And initially, we can make it up to 33.09. But your first real resistance, if we do blow some stops up in here, is going to be 32.69. You may see the market take a little bit of a pause there. Other than that, that's about it. We have seen a pretty big move here in gold. See here, we've actually paired back to the 38% from this, and we'll pull this back so you can get a little better look. See, there's from way, way back when here, but here's 1267. Now, if you look at this, we did make a pretty good move. This took us, what, to 1348? And this is down to 1267. So it was, you look at the chart, it doesn't look as like much, but it actually is. From 48 to 1267 was at $70. You know what I mean? So from the low here of 1267, and this on the XAU, all the way up here to 1558. Well, 1447 is at 38%, and we just about made it there. And right now, the D's futures only trading like about $1 premium right now to the XAU. So you can see here, 1448 on the D's futures, probably right there, around there. We actually, that 38% is actually confluencing here with a level here on the XAU spot, which comes in at 14, I think it's 1445.8 or something like that. 14, let's see, pairs back. Yes, 1446. So we've almost just about made it. That's why you're seeing a nice rebound. We talked about this. I remember on the way down. On the way back up, I remember key levels being, I think it's 1448 and record. That's what we're seeing that. And 1458. I actually thought the market might have found some support on this dip down to 1457. I haven't done anything much with gold lately. Probably a good thing I haven't. Might have tried to catch a falling out or something. Better to go. It's surprising, not surprising, but what now we've got this downside momentum. It's being reinforced. They've continued to really press us. But we've come into some value levels where those that are short would be actually looking to cover and maybe put on new positions on a rally back. So be aware down here. This is actually a good value area and also confluencing with the 38%. So be aware of that. I remember we saw at the time, months way back, I remember a lot of trading going on at 1442, 48, 52, eventually to 58. I think back down to around 48-ish or something like that. A lot of good volume support there in that area, value support, however you want to go and look at it. Anyway, that's all that we have for today on a very, very quiet day. Thanks for joining us here on the FX Daily Roundup.